I think I could make this work. I'm just not sure I'd like my life if I did. That's something a woman said to me recently when we were talking about starting a business. And it captures a fear I hear more often than you might expect. It's not the fear that the business will fail, it's this fear that it might actually work and you'll realize you built a life you don't really want. In her case, she'd figured out a pretty realistic path to replacing her income. She could start coaching. She had the background, the experience, and the relationships. She knew she could bring in clients, so on paper, it made a ton of sense. But there was a problem. She was worried about what success would look like. If the coaching worked, she'd still be trading her time for money. And she worried that doing coaching sessions all day would eventually make her miserable. She's actually what I call a bento box person, someone who thrives when they get to work on a lot of different challenges instead of doing just the same thing over and over again. So this path that could get her out of her current job also felt like it might trap her in another version of the same treadmill. And that's when I told her about someone we've worked with named Heather Wilson. Heather had also decided she wanted to become a business owner, and she took this several-week business planning course where she explored a couple of ideas. One was a mobile notary business, and the other was a laundromat. And in the end, she chose the mobile notary business because she could see a realistic path to start and succeed at it. And she did. She successfully replaced her income, and she gained more control over her time. But after a couple of years, it was clear the mobile notary business still wasn't scratching that original itch that made her want to become a business owner in the first place. She still felt pulled to build something bigger than trading her time for money. And then one day she saw an ad for another business planning workshop. This one was a little bit longer, about 12 weeks. And so she signed up, and she used that time to build out a plan for the laundromat she'd originally considered. And not long after that, she went out and she purchased one that needed a lot of improvement. And now today, Heather runs a successful and highly profitable laundromat while still doing some mobile notary work on the side. And my biggest takeaway from listening to Heather share her story is that sometimes the first step isn't the final destination. Sometimes it's a bridge. It's the thing that can give you the income, the experience, the breathing room while you keep working toward the bigger vision. And I know because I've lived this myself. My first business never turned into a massive success, but it opened the door to the relationships and the opportunities that have led to everything I've been able to do since. So I shared with this woman that maybe coaching didn't have to be the business, but rather the bridge to the business she wanted to create. And maybe not just the financial bridge. It occurred to me that coaching calls could actually be a very powerful discovery tool, because each conversation with one of these clients could give her a chance to dig deeper into the problems her clients were facing. And over time, those conversations could reveal patterns, opportunities, something that might lead to a business that could scale beyond one-on-one coaching. Because the people she wants to help are the ones navigating big life transitions. And once we clarified that, the ideas just started flowing. Books, workshops, retreats, a community built around helping people navigate those transitions. I literally watched her energy change as what she had initially seen as a trap suddenly became the vehicle for her vision, this way to move forward and learn faster and discover what the bigger opportunity might be. And watching that shift reminded me of a pattern I see all the time. Most people think clarity comes first. They think the heavens are supposed to part and reveal this perfect path before they move forward. But that almost never happens. Clarity usually comes from wrestling with the problem for a while, sometimes a long while. The frustration she was feeling wasn't a sign she was on the wrong path. It was actually a sign that she was in the middle of the process. That murky place where you sit with the problem long enough for the pieces to actually start coming together. In her case, she'd already been doing the work. She'd spent a month working on a business plan, and that process had started surfacing these conflicts she hadn't been able to articulate before. Now, our conversation didn't magically give her the answer. It just helped her connect the dots she had already been uncovering in her work. So if you're thinking about becoming a business owner, it's something worth remembering. The path rarely reveals itself all at once. But when you start engaging with the work and exploring the opportunity, the next step usually starts to become clear, not because the heavens have magically parted, but because you stayed in the struggle long enough to learn something useful from it.